I'm 25 years old, 5 feet 7 inches tall, with a well-built physique, living in Denver, Colorado. My story begins with my first intimate experience with a woman who lived next door. Her name was Jessica, a woman in her early 30s. She had a reserved nature and rarely spoke more than a few words whenever we crossed paths. Most of the time, she seemed serious and distant, which only added to the mystery around her. One day, Jessica came over to my house in the afternoon. My mom was home at the time, and Jessica explained that she felt anxious being alone at night in her house, especially since no one else was home. She asked if she could stay with us for the night. My mom, being kind-hearted, agreed right away and assured Jessica that she could sleep over. Later that evening, however, things changed. My mom had to leave unexpectedly with my grandmother for some urgent family matter. She told us she wouldn't be able to return until the next morning. It was around 8 p.m. when Jessica knocked on our door again, asking if my mom was still home. I explained the situation, and she immediately looked uneasy. She said she still felt scared about being alone at night and asked if I could come over and stay at her place instead. At first, I hesitated. I told her I had some work to finish on my computer, so it would be hard for me to stay over. But Jessica looked at me with pleading eyes, and I gave in after a moment's hesitation. "Okay," I said. "I'll stay with you tonight." By 10 p.m., I headed over to her house. When she opened the door, my breath caught for a second. She was wearing a sleek black dress, and the way it fit her made her look effortlessly stunning. There was something about the way she carried herself that night. Her usual guarded demeanor seemed to have softened, and for the first time, I saw a different side of her. Despite her looking so stunning that evening, I hesitated to say anything beyond polite conversation. Jessica had always been distant, and I wasn't sure how to handle this sudden shift in her behavior. I asked where I should sleep, and she told me I could use the guest room. Her kindness felt different, tonight warmer, more genuine. I decided not to read too much into it and went to the guest room to lie down for the night. At around 10:45 p.m., Jessica came into the guest room, looking slightly uneasy. "Hey, I've been having this awful back pain," she said. Since I had some knowledge about medicines, I asked if she had any painkillers on hand. She shook her head. "No, I don't have any," she said softly, "but I have some balm. Could you help apply it to my back?" "Sure," I reply. She left the room briefly and returned with the balm, handing it to me with a small, grateful smile. She sat down on the edge of the bed, turning her back toward me. I took a small amount of the balm and started gently rubbing it into her shoulders. After a moment, Jessica shifted uncomfortably. "This bed isn't very comfortable. Can you apply it in my room instead?" she asked. I nodded and followed her into her room. She left for the kitchen, returning a few moments later, her dress slipping slightly from the petticoat she wore underneath. The sight was unexpected and undeniably captivating, but I tried to keep my focus. Without saying a word, Jessica lay down on her bed, her head resting near my legs. "Go ahead," she whispered. "Apply the balm everywhere it hurts." I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I began to massage the balm into her back. The touch of her soft skin beneath my fingertips sent a wave of nervous excitement through me. As I worked my way down her back, her dress slipped further out of the petticoat. The intimacy of the moment made my heart pound louder with every passing second. Jessica let out a soft sigh and said, "I'm feeling a bit better, but now my legs are aching too." Would you mind sitting on them and applying the balm there?" Her request caught me off guard, but I agreed without hesitation, trying to keep my composure. I sat carefully on her legs and began massaging the balm into her calves. The touch and proximity stirred feelings within me that I wasn't prepared for. My pulse raced and my body reacted instinctively, struggling to stay in control. Just as the moment threatened to escalate, Jessica suddenly said, "That's enough. I'm fine now. You can go back to the guest room and sleep." But by then, I was far from ready to sleep. The brief contact had awakened emotions I couldn't ignore. Still, I stood up, taking a deep breath, preparing to leave. As I turned to go, she spoke again. "It's probably too cold in the guest room," she said casually. "Why don't you just sleep here? The heater is on and the temperature is comfortable." I paused for a moment. The thought of going back to the cold guest room didn't appeal to me, and truthfully, I didn't want to leave. "All right," I said quietly, and she gave a soft smile. She switched off the main light, leaving only the warm glow of a lamp to illuminate the room. I settled onto the bed, and for a while, there was only the sound of our breathing in the stillness of the room. Jessica lay beside me, and I couldn't help but notice how her body curved gracefully under the blanket. Her presence felt magnetic. After a few minutes, she shifted positions, and for a fleeting moment, the blanket slipped, revealing the curve of her back. I couldn't believe my eyes. Her silhouette was mesmerizing. My thoughts raced as I tried to resist the temptation rising within me. I told myself to keep calm, but the more I tried, the harder it became to ignore the moment's intensity. A plan began to form in my mind. I decided that if I waited for the right moment, perhaps I could take the chance to explore this connection further without crossing any boundaries. I pretended to be asleep, lying still beside Jessica, but the warmth between us made it impossible to resist the connection growing stronger by the second. Slowly, I turned toward her, gently resting my hand on her upper area and my leg over hers. At that moment, it felt like I had stepped into a dream. Every sensation was heightened, and the closeness between us felt surreal. As I subtly moved my leg, I began nudging her petticoat, easing it down little by little. To my surprise, Jessica responded by shifting her leg and helping me slide the fabric lower. It wasn't long before her petticoat slipped down to her knees, and the soft curve of her skin became visible in the dim light. The atmosphere between us shifted. Neither of us could hide the desire any longer. She turned toward me, and now my leg brushed against her, making contact with the soft, intimate body part. The heat between us was undeniable. In the stillness of the room, Jessica reached out and gently touched me, her hand wrapping around my weapon. That one touch was enough to make every barrier between us disappear. I responded instinctively, my hand finding its way to her curves, while my lips met the soft skin of her upper area. We were both lost in the moment, exploring each other without hesitation or second thoughts. She whispered playfully in my ear, her voice laced with desire. "Give it to me just how I like it." The excitement in her words fueled me even more, and we moved together in perfect sync, finding a rhythm that felt both wild and free. Jessica shifted onto her knees, leaning forward with a playful glint in her eyes. She began to pleasure me in ways I'd never experienced before. Since this was my first time being intimate with someone, the sensations overwhelmed me. But Jessica moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing, guiding the moment with ease and control. At one point, she whispered, "It's your turn now," hinting that she wanted me to explore her as well. But when I focused on the main point, I hesitated, feeling a bit unsure, and gently declined. Jessica didn't seem bothered. Instead, she gave me a teasing smile, as if challenging me to keep up. In short, Jessica suddenly climbed on the top of the horse. In one smooth motion, she lowered herself onto the aroused horse, her body fitting perfectly against that. She began exercising gently, rocking back and forth, while making soft, breathy sounds that only heightened the intensity. Every movement was deliberate, and the pleasure built with each passing second. After a few minutes, I felt my release approaching and breathlessly told her, "I think I'm close." To my surprise, she quickly pulled away and gave me a playful yet slightly mischievous look. "You can't finish yet," she teased. "Not until we try everything." Determined to make the most of the moment, Jessica adjusted herself by placing a pillow under her back and guiding me toward her. "Go slow," she whispered, positioning me so I could feel every inch of contact. She began moving her body in sync with mine, rubbing herself, building the tension even more. With a soft moan, she urged me closer, her voice low and filled with excitement. "Now," she whispered, "I want you inside." And with that, I moved with her, fully immersed in the moment, letting the connection between us take over. At that moment, the connection between Jessica and me felt more intense than ever. We were lost in the experience, letting go of all hesitation. She whispered playfully, hinting she wanted to try something new, and with a mischievous smile, she grabbed a small bottle of lubricant from her bedside table. "This will help," she said with a wink, as she applied a generous amount to both of us, ensuring everything was smooth and comfortable. She guided my hand gently, asking me to rub this and ease the tension as we explored new sensations. I could see the excitement in her eyes, though she paused momentarily, making sure I was in sync with her. "We can stop if it's too much," I whispered softly, not wanting Jessica to shake her head with a determined smile, letting me know she was fully in control. After adjusting and taking her time, we found a rhythm that felt natural, moving, together with a sense of trust and understanding. Every touch heightened the experience, and before long, the moment became overwhelming for both of us. I told her I was close, and she smiled warmly. "Finish with me," she whispered, guiding me toward her. As the tension reached its peak, we shared one final moment of release, every breath, every movement in perfect harmony. We stayed close, completely spent, and drifted into sleep in each other's arms. When morning arrived, the usual seriousness I had seen in Jessica before was replaced by warmth and kindness. It was as if the night had transformed her into someone who felt as close to me emotionally as she had been physically. A few weeks later, her family moved to another place, and our brief yet unforgettable connection came to an end. But Jessica stayed in touch, calling me from time to time, and every time we talked, those memories came rushing back. That first experience was unlike anything I could have imagined, an intimate, unplanned encounter that became a cherished and unforgettable part of my life.